My name is Robin, and welcome to English Grammar Now. Today, we're going to be talking about a lesson on a. We're talking about articles and doing part 1 today. Now, don't be fooled. We're not talking about the letter A. We're talking about a and an. A and an are called indefinite articles. Now, articles are a group of words that come before a noun. They help us to explain which one or what kind we are talking about. Articles are a part of a larger group of words called determiners. Some examples of determiners are one cat, these markers, any book, that street. We use a and an especially to talk about things that are not particular. We'll look at that in detail in our next slide. Here's what some examples of a not particular noun might look like. In the first category, we use a or an if we're mentioning something that the listener has not heard about before. Maybe it's something you've never talked about. So if there's a sentence like, I went for a movie, we assume that the person listening doesn't know what movie you're talking about. In the second category, we use a or an if we're talking about something or someone that belongs to a set of the same kind of thing. Here's some examples of that. This is a pen, not a pencil. There are a group of things that would be called pens, and there's a group of things that would be called pencils. So we use a or an to say this belongs to the group of things called pens. Another example, she's an engineer. There are lots of engineers, and she belongs to that category. We also use this article if we're talking about a certain kind of thing or a kind of person. For example, they made a great movie. She's a shy girl. We're using adjectives, great and shy, to describe the noun, the movie and the girl. So we use an indefinite article to put in front of that noun. Lastly, if we're going to use there is, there are, or have got, we often use a or an after those. Here's some examples of that. There's a banana for you. I've got a new game. Now, we have to be careful because we can't use a or an in all circumstances. In fact, we cannot use it if we're talking about a plural noun. So, in this sentence, I'd like to eat chocolates for snack. We could not put a or an in front of chocolates because there's more than one. We also don't use it if we're making a generalization, which means we're talking about all the things in that group. So if we're going to say, teachers know all the answers, we're talking about all teachers. So we won't use a at the beginning of this sentence. The last thing we don't use this for is if there is another determiner. We'll study those more in the future, but here's an example. Pass me that notebook. That is already describing the notebook, so we wouldn't put a in this sentence either. Here's a chance for you to try it out. In each blank, you get to decide if it needs a or if it needs nothing. See if you can figure it out. Here's the answers for those blanks. Number 1, make sure to bring umbrellas. Probably you saw the S at the end of umbrellas, which means it's plural, and we cannot put a in that sentence. Number 2, does anyone have a Band-Aid? In this case, we need one thing that is a part of a group of things called Band-Aids if we fall down and hurt ourselves, so we will use a in that sentence. Number 3, I'd like to see a movie tonight. Here we see that either the listener doesn't know which movie, or maybe we haven't decided which movie yet, so it's not specific or not particular. So we will use a in this sentence. Number 4, dogs are the best pet. This is a generalization. We're talking about all dogs, so we don't need any article at the beginning. And number 5, this is a tasty soup. Tasty is an adjective to describe the soup. So, as we discussed, a will help us in front of this noun too. Now, the non-specific article has two different forms. We have a and we have an. Obviously, there's a difference between using these. See if you can look at this list of nouns and guess what the difference might be. You can see that we use a with the nouns break, joke, and noise. And we've used an with the nouns elephant and ice cream cone. Probably you figured out that it has something to do with consonants and vowels. But pay very close attention to this rule. We use a before a word that starts with a consonant sound. And we use an before a word that starts with a vowel sound. Not just a consonant or a vowel, but a consonant sound or a vowel sound. This can get a little tricky because some vowels look like consonants. Here's a couple of examples. Hour, honest man. So even though H is technically a consonant, it has a vowel sound at the beginning. It's not always the consonant H, however. For example, sometimes we will say it differently, like in the word hockey. If you want to put an indefinite article before that word, you will say a hockey player. A hockey player. So be careful to notice if it's a consonant or a vowel sound. In the same way, sometimes a consonant sound actually looks like a vowel. The most common examples are O, U, and E. For example, we would say a 1-hour lecture, a university, and a European band. These all have consonant sounds, w and y at the beginning. 1 hour, university, European. So don't let the spelling fool you. And remember, it's not just how the spelling is. Some words like umbrella begin with a vowel sound, an umbrella. So be careful to think about what sound these nouns have. Here's an activity for you to try. Use the nouns in the box to fill in the blanks in each of these sentences. Before each of the nouns, you can choose if it needs a or an. So make sure you can tell what sound the noun begins with. Maybe you've not heard the third noun in this list before. That one is ukulele, just like this picture. A ukulele is like a small guitar. So make sure to pay attention to what sound is at the beginning of these nouns. Go ahead, give it a try. Here's how we could fill in each of these sentences. Number 1, he is an architect. An architect. Architect begins with a vowel sound, so we need un. Number 2. That is a historical building. In this case, H has a consonant sound, historical, so we use a historical building. Number 3. I'll be back in an hour. Hour also has H, but it's got a vowel sound at the beginning. Number 4. The radio has an electrical problem. Number 5. That instrument is a ukulele. Number 6. That couch is an ugly color. Great job! Here's a conversation to show us how we might see the indefinite article a and an in a conversation. What did you do yesterday? I had an exam. It was really tough. I had a lot of notes to study, and I don't know how I did. How long did it take? We had an hour to finish, but halfway through I had a real problem. My pen died. I had a pencil, but not a sharpener. I had to ask someone for a pen. That sounds stressful. Do you want to see a movie or go for a walk? Yes, I need to have a day off after that. Here's where we can see all the examples of a or un in this conversation. This is one of those very short words in the English language, so sometimes it's difficult to hear. But you can notice how we pair this article with different nouns, depending on the sound that the next noun begins with. Thanks for joining me to study articles today. I look forward to seeing you again next time. Goodbye!